Yes,
Your
it
daughter
is.
has so much to look up
She does.
to.
Don't you ever speak on my child. I told your that's why the we here, because you spoke on my daughter, you horse.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. I want to talk to you guys about a video I watched. It's called The Conversation between Hazel E and Masika, and obviously we're going to deal with body language, but also going to deal with how to dealing with arguments, because you know how I like to resolve arguments, and how they actually escalate. In this particular one, we're gonna break it down as how this particular argument escalated from 0 to 1,000. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Click on that bell button for the uploads of the notifications. You understand? And for those of you returnees, and you already know the model, you got the minerals. You got the minerals. Alright, cool. Let's get into it. So, yes, dealing with, obviously, arguments in relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, parents. I mean, they all have a similar a kind of foundation that we start from. But I wanted to break down a video that I watched first. And it was between Masika and Hazel E. And I had an interest because I watched Hazel E on Marriage Boot Camp. And so I know how she can also flare up and try to manipulate situations to make her point across the table. And I don't really know Masika too tough, but from this video I got to see a particular side of her. Alright, so first thing we see is obviously Hazel E come in and sit down. First thing I noticed about Hazel E, her position how she was sitting was uncomfortable. Now obviously, I think this is postpartum, so after the baby that she's had, you know, she's obviously still having some baby weight, you know what I mean? And I guess the way she was sitting, for me, straight away looked uncomfortable. Didn't look like she was very, very comfortable. But that was just my personal opinion. I think that's perception. Masika came in, come and sat down. First of all, face like thunder. Number two, the position I would call is female B energy. You understand? The B, I don't want to say the whole word. You know what I mean, yeah? Female dog energy, yeah? She came on that kind of vibe. Like, I'm a boss type of vibe, but it was more of a female dog type of vibe, right? No offense to her. I'm just saying that she came with that kind of energy because the way she sat, if you see the way leg crossed over, leg that, you know, the way her leg was even dangling over the other leg, that and then what you notice as well is that she also is, I think adrenaline was rushing because her leg couldn't stand still. Her right leg that was crossed over, I think right leg or left leg was crossed over, whichever one it was. The leg that was crossed over was still moving. The foot was still moving, and I noticed and I said, okay, this person's run on adrenaline. Yeah, they're not necessarily nervous or anxious, but they're ready to fight, right? And so she came with a whole game plan. That's the truth. And so when Hazel E starts, she starts off on a very good tone when they start conversating, right? She takes the lead here and sets a tone for the conversation, how it should go, okay? Now, the first thing she asked...
I know you've had a rough week. I've been in your place before. So this probably is like...
Now, for us as an audience, that will put us on Hazel E's side. We're going, okay, cool. You know, Hazel E's not coming on crud. She's coming on a calm tip. You know, she's trying to even, put herself in the shoes of Masika, right? I know you've had a hard week. Before we go any further, kind of thing, right? And you see Masika's face. She does not do anything, but there is a response, and the response is, she actually almost swallows, right? Like she's clearing her throat. She almost swallows as she says that, right? Again, I really believe that's the adrenaline running and pumping at the time, right? She's gearing herself up, but she's not going to speak too soon because she's got a game plan as how she came in. She didn't come here to talk. She came to unhinge her opponent, and I will get onto that as well. And then so Hazel E goes and say, that's probably me, the mother side. I've been there before. I can almost like she's empathizing with how Masika could be at the moment, right? Now, whilst I hear the empathetic tone from Hazel E, if I'm Masika, I could take it wrong. You saying you've got the...
So this probably is like the mother side of me coming out, you know?
The mother tone could be that you're trying to mother me. Now, someone might say, well, that's not really a compliment, but it can be looked as an insult to Masika because, like, what you're trying to say, you're more mature than me. Trying to say that you know better than me. You're trying to say you got more wisdom than me. It can be taken wrongly because the person can say, I'm behaving like a mother to you. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm schooling your younger you. You know what I mean? I'm in control of the younger you. You know what I'm saying? And so that could be seen in the wrong way. But again, Masika doesn't talk. she doesn't respond, right? And so she goes on again, and this is where the tone began to change, because the language became accusatory, right? And when you become accusatory in your language, when you pursue that, the person who is listening to that will go into a defensive mode, right? And that defensive mode, it depends on how they've been trained and what environment they've gone into and what tools they have as to how they want to disseminate or, you know, break up your argument or your point that you've made towards them. If a missile's coming your way, there are multiple ways that someone wants to deal with the missile coming their way, right? And so Hazel E says,
You like to talk about me online. Anytime anybody posts, you want to be the first person under the comments to take jabs at me. Why?
And then you see the smirk from Masika, and which for me told me that whatever she had said, Hazel E, was probably number one, true, and two, she smirked because she's thinking that she's got underneath Hazel E's skin, right? Because like I said, Masika didn't come here to clear the air. She came here, okay, all right, to get underneath the skin. She wasn't getting an apology. She's come here to get underneath the skin of Hazel E and let her know she ain't the one to play with, right? She's come for a fight. She's not come for a resolvement of an argument unless that Hazel E's arguing, all right? And so, you know, again, she goes on to say,
Basically, what's the issue?
and again, that language again is forceful. It's like, what's the issue? And the tone that was used, what's the issue between us? Like, yo, like, talk. Like, do you know what I mean? And so when Masika hears that, her response to that is that she made a face. Okay, you'll see it. And it was like, you know the deal already. Why are you asking me that question? Like, the face was to say, like, you know why. You know why we're here. And we hear that later on when she says, that's the reason why we're here. We're here because you keep talking about my daughter. Right? Now, I don't think the daughter is the real issue why they're here. I think Masika is one of those people that likes to aggressively attack people. When she's attacked, she can't handle it. But that's my perception. And so when obviously she makes that face is telling its own story, right? And again, she doesn't speak. She's only making faces at the moment. Why? She's trying to keep this facade that I'm classy. I'm a boss. You know what I'm saying? I'm a bad bee. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ahead of the crew. I'm ahead of the gang. You understand? Listen, you can't reach my level. You understand? I'm going to try and belittle you to get to the... I'm going to try and belittle you to win this little duel between us two. I'm not going to fight you fist to fist. No. I'm going to come classy. You understand? That's why she sat with a leg over the other leg. That's why she sat there poised like she was royalty. That's why she was trying to not speak and trying to let her facial expressions tell the whole story.
And I thought you were like my homegirl. Maybe we weren't best friends. Maybe we weren't like, you know, but we were hanging out and we were in the space.
You know, and when Hazel E spoke about the fact that I thought you were my homegirl, her voice actually begins to crack a little bit. And I don't know if she got a little bit emotional. I don't know if it was just because maybe there was a little frog in the throat at the moment. But there was a definite kind of less power in the voice and tone at that point when she's talking about being a homegirl. And I think anytime when an argument happens, you know, there is often a proximity of pain and hurt, and there can be a level of betrayal. So when someone feels that they're your homegirl and it's like you've betrayed me with what you've done, and what you've executed, you've hurt me, when really you should be on my side. Like, the things that we've done, we weren't like best homies, but we were cool enough for you not to have done this thing. And that's where the pain lies for Hazel E. For Masika, I don't know, something, you know, I don't know if she stole Hazel E's ex or whatever, but it just looks like, and I always say this, arguments of the most hottest nature often revolve around money and the opposite sex. Those two issues cause the biggest ruckuses of friendships you can ever see. When that point is made, you see Masika's not laughing or smiling, but her leg is swinging, like her foot is swinging. She's poised, but the energy can't stop. The aggression that she has, the fire, the vim that she has, the readiness to fight is still there. So her leg starts moving, starts dangling. She can't help it. It's going. You know what I mean? Like, she can't stop that energy from vibing. So no matter how cool you think you are, you're going to give yourself away. How you truly feel is going to come through how your body's going to react. And so, you know... And then, so at a point when the point was made about, you know, being homegirl and, you know, the betrayal about the guy over a guy or whatever, you know, it was interesting that at that point Masika stops the eye contact. It's interesting that she starts looking at her nails. Like, I'm unbothered by what you're saying. I don't care for what you're saying. It's not touching me what you're saying, right? But actually, as you do that, it's actually touching you, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to unhinge her from her position. You're trying to look unbothered, but as you're trying to look unbothered, you are bothered. That's why you try to look unbothered. Do you understand? Like you try to look like you're over it, but you're not over it. That's why you're trying to look like you're over it. Do you feel me? You're having to force the behavior, right? And so then she no eye contact, looks at her nails again. Then she drinks some water as well, and all that. All these things to look like she don't care what you're saying, right? But you're here, number one. So if you didn't care, you wouldn't be here. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be here. That's the point blank clause.
You can act like you don't have time, but we know that you do.
So like for her, this was a slip of the facade for Hazel E that made her smile, right? Because Hazel E's broken rank now. Oh, you ain't got time. It seems like you ain't got time. It's like, okay, Hazel E's getting hurt now by the behavior. A smirk arrives on Masika's face. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. And that's what it is. See, sometimes these arguments are not about trying to resolve the issue. Sometimes these arguments are about winning. You know, they're about, I have to beat you. And then so when Masika finally actually gets involved in a conversation, her first words were,
Is that that's what you wanted to say?
I'm just asking, what's the issue?
Again, trying to show that she's in control, she's not bothered. I mean, have you done? You good? Yeah? People do this as a way to try and show us if they're really in control, and that you're out of control, and that you're emotional, and that you're over the top, right? It's almost like when someone's being super calm when you're being angry and irate. It's like, wow, are you really going to be that angry about the thing? It's a way to try and rear you up, to try and get you to flare, to show you in a bad light, and then to expose you, right? That you're the one that's out, that you're the one that's losing the plot, which means that which means we're not in the same league. As far as I'm concerned, I came cool. Why are you blowing up for? I'm chill. Yeah? It's a way to get underneath the person's skin.
Well, first, I didn't know you were still pregnant, so congratulations. How far along are you?
Yeah, just...
The first comment to the whole scenario is this. You know, congratulations on being a parent, pregnant again. You come on smoke, then, you know, you didn't come here to resolve the issue. You came here to fight. You understand? Because you didn't address any of the points that Hazel E made, right? And this is actually where the argument really starts. Because the person didn't try to acknowledge any of the points that were made. And you see, in arguments, you want a person who's highly intellectual in terms of debating and trying to argue a truthful point from their truthful perspective, deals with the points that have been made and doesn't just ignore and negate what points have been made by the individual person. There were comments about how you behaved. Why didn't you address it? You didn't. Instead, you came on smoke. So you started this whole beef. So now whatever happens from here onwards, you started it. You stoked the fire, right? And so you want to rattle Hazel E to justify your anger. You want to rattle Hazel E to justify why you're going to fight. You want to rattle Hazel E to get into a fight with you so that you can justify you punching her or beating her up, whatever, to prove that you're stronger than her. Why? Because your words will not be strong enough. So you will use your fist because that's where you believe that battleground you can win. If it gets to fisticuffs, you'll win. If it stays on a vocal level, you won't win. So you got to get under her skin to try and make her be provoked enough so that you can fight. Isn't it right? Right?
Oh, you know,
You're not really in the place to be digging for people right now. You don't even have a job.
And then Hazel E takes the bait and says, you're not in a place to come for people right now. You don't even have a job, right? And then, so now we're going to start trading blows. We're going to start trading jabs. Then obviously, Masika says, obviously, I gave you this job, right? And she's like, and that smirk that she has on it, gotcha. See, you thought you were going to come for me, but I've got you. You said about this job.
I gave you this job.
I'm on TV currently.
I am the job.
I gave you this job. You understand? Again, about the ego coming through, yeah? We know you're double, and then Hazel E says, but we know you were double-crossed. You know what I'm saying? And so now it's getting personal. So now they're exchanging blows and trading blows. And then she goes, and then, Hazel E goes on.
It was the Rose organization for me this week.
Wait, but was it?
It was the president of the Rose organization.
The president of the Rose organization going on live with me last night.
The president that
apologizing?
Polly tried to set up for the.
Trying to trade these blows to try and show that a person, listen, what do you mean? Like, My stuff's covered. I don't know about you, but my stuff's covered. Like we do these personal insults to try and crush the person in front of us and to win plaudits from the crowd around. And who's the crowd? The cameras. We, the audience, are the crowd. Okay, this is a fight. This is no longer an argument. This is a fight. When you get into exchanging personal blows, let me even give you a few more, and then you know,
I didn't go in the comment section and say shit about it. That's the difference.
Here, and I need you to be here.
You don't need me to be
loud,
anywhere.
and then I can get.
She's like, oh, Masika says, obviously, you're here and I need you to be here. Okay, you're here and I need you to be here. All right, like again, trying to control the narrative. You know, I always say this about control the narrative. Trying to now show to the person that you're more dominant in this conversation. It's a fight. It's no longer an argument. It's no longer a debate. It's no longer a disagreement. It's now a fight because there are personal jabs being thrown. You understand? And so when the point comes here and Hazel E sees that she's now beginning to counter punch Masika and she's feeling it, she goes a step again because
I'm sure you're not remember.
Are you gonna start sex trafficking again? You look like you came dressed for the job.
That's what you did in Dubai.
That's what
that
you
is what you
and
were
you
doing
have no
in
proof
Dubai.
Of that. See, what we're not gonna do is make up lies.
You're gonna start sex trafficking again, okay? And then Masika, you know. And then Masika this time raises her voice and says, "Oh my gosh, you're here, and I need you to be here." Right? At that point, I knew she's losing it. You see, the whole point is this: the whole game for Masika was to come in, play cool, play like she had it all under control. But the trouble is that she's a fiery one. She's a firecracker.
It's like you always
Masika, do you know how crazy
Why are you so loud?
Do you know how crazy you're about
Why
to
are you
look?
so loud?
You just made up
Why
a
are you
whole
so
sex
loud?
trafficking scam.
No, actually, I
forged
didn't.
documents in
No.
front of the world.
And so when the heat starts to kick up, she starts to warm up very, very quickly. Okay? And then the control doesn't stay because her natural battleground is to fight. It's to escalate it from being words to fists. What Hazel E doesn't want is to fight. She wants to keep it on the words battleground because she can win there. You understand? She's not the fight. It doesn't look like she's the fighting type. All right. So that's where the two fights are coming into it. And so when Masika screams and said, "Obviously you're here and I need to be here," she was already cracking. She was already losing it because she lost her tone of voice went up. That's why. Because I don't know. She was saying, "Why are you raising your voice? Why are you raising?" Now you're screaming yourself. You're losing it. Right? And so when the comment about her daughter is made, that is the excuse for Masika to blow. I remember this is very similar to Backchat, Esther, and the whole, what's her name again? Nunu situation, where it was a back and forth trading, and then one bomb about not necessarily the child itself, but actually about the parent. And you know, obviously, Hazel E said, obviously, what's your child going to look up to? It wasn't about your child. It was about you. And so now you use that as an excuse to start firing off and trying to fight people.
Yes,
Your daughter has so much to look up
She does.
to.
Don't you ever
Speak on my child. I told your that's why the we here, because you spoke on my daughter, you horse.
Right? But the truth of the matter is this, you lost it. You had no control. You no longer had the impetus to hold back. You couldn't do it anymore. The floodgates opened. You weren't levels enough to argue on this platform in that particular way. So you're trying to go to another level, which you feel like you can take her to, which you won't be able to fight, which is a physically fight. Oftentimes when people are physically more domineering, right, they're more fighters, they try to switch the beef from talking to fighting. So bullies often try to do this because they want to intimidate you, right? So let's say a bully cusses you and you insult him back. Instead of the bully now insulting you again, they go to keep it on a verbal level. But the bully will go, "What, you want some of this? You want some of this?" And the reason why they're doing that is because they can't fight on that level no more. They no longer have no more cusses left. They're not winning that battle. So now they got to take it to another level where they feel they can take you on, which is physically.
Speak on my daughter one more time.
That's what Masika's done. And so I wanted to just bring that to the table and say to you guys, listen, look, if you feel like you can identify with Masika, that you raise your anger levels very, very quickly from being about verbal to physical, you know, one of the greatest things about life is that we can learn how to control our narrative. If Masika hadn't come there on crud, this doesn't get to a fight. But Masika came there on crud to fight. And then when she found out she couldn't win the verbal battle, she turned it physical. And the reason why, again, is because she's not learned to communicate. When you don't learn how to articulate and communicate, listen, someone can win an argument simply not because they're making sense. A person can win an argument not because they're making the most sense, but the way they articulate is the most clearest out of everybody else. They make clean, clear points, and people can follow it, and they'll say, well, I believe that person, just because of how clear and cut they are. Just like a news reporter, they talk in a very precise, clear tone. Why? Because what they want us to understand is that this information can be trusted. Same with when they deal with arguments and debates. So the fight going to a physical, you've already lost. You don't have control. You understand? Yeah? So, guys, I'm going to end it there and say, you know what, guys? Make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of the uploads. Let us know your thoughts as well. We appreciate you. Stay locked, stay loaded.